So, speaking of poopers, I do have a question for you, and I gotta tell you that our future friendship depends upon your answer.
All right, I'm ready.
Toilet paper in the bathroom, overhand or underhand?
Overhand.
Okay, good.
Of course.
Good.
The dirty commies who go underhand, I don't understand it. You can be friends with me if you're left-handed, but if you go under and not over, it's
just
a deal breaker.
The worst kind of person. Just the worst.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the FoundryCast.
What's up, everybody?
I'm Cyrus.
And I'm Zach.
And we're meeting again for another episode of the FoundryCast. We've got a lot going on. We have a very special thing tonight. I have been doing Dungeon Crate here recently. I'll be doing a Dungeon Crate video here in the next few days. You've been subscribed to Loot Crate off and on for quite a while.
Yeah.
So tonight we have a very special unboxing. We wanted to share it with you live, or as close to live as we get. We each have the boxes here.
Yep.
What are we unboxing tonight, Zach?
Well, it says Blip the Ball Game. Oh, wait, no, this is the back of the box. The front of the box says, new prize inside 3-pack Cracker Jacks.
So we are doing a Cracker Jack unboxing to see exactly what we get. Is it worthwhile? Is it something that you should do at home?
Yeah, should you subscribe to the Cracker Jacks?
Mine's at the top. Is yours?
Well, there's a bag inside. I don't remember there being a bag inside. Maybe
you're right.
Maybe I just don't remember Cracker Jacks. Let's have a look-see here. Oh, I see a prize.
All right, mine is two-dimensional.
Uh-huh.
So we're not looking at big plastic trinkets in here
right
anymore. I was hoping for a choking hazard.
I was hoping for something that I could use to rob a bank.
I've got a sticker.
I think I do too.
Oh, this is another thing where I have to go and download an app, take a picture of the thing.
What?
And then it lets me do other things with the thing.
What?
Yeah, that's what I've got. I hope you got something better.
No, same deal. It's a thing where you got to download an app. I did get a sticker though.
I think we've been Cracker Jacked.
I think I just wasted a bunch of money. So Cyrus, just looking forward to upcoming events. Something we're both really excited about this weekend is Summer Slam.
Yeah, WWE is at it again for their big summer show. Summer Slam has always been a huge hit. It's sort of the top shows that they have. Usually it's WrestleMania, or
would you say it's
Royal
number
Rumble.
2 behind WrestleMania?
It's probably number 3. Royal Rumble is such a lead-up. It's what they call the road to WrestleMania, which is the biggest event. And Royal Rumble is an opportunity to do a different kind of match where they will have a ton of superstars all fighting each other at once, which settles some scores and starts new feuds. Yeah. But it also allows them to bring in characters from the past that you may not have seen for a long while. Maybe someone who's retired that decides to come in and kick some butt. Yeah. And you know they're never going to win, but it's still kind of neat to see. So I think that is the second best venue. SummerSlam is usually number 3, but it is the biggest event that you have until you come back around in February or whenever they do the Royal Rumble. And this one should be pretty big. Should be a lot of fun. It's the first pay-per-view, or what they're now calling special event, after the brand split. Raw and SmackDown have their own unique rosters and their own unique titles, their belts. Some of them have yet to debut. They're bringing out a new one that I don't know that I like the term for. It's called the Universal Championship.
I saw that. What is the Universal Championship?
It used to be the WWE Championship and the Heavyweight Championship. Right. Then when they merged them back together, it was the WWE Heavyweight Championship. Yeah. They don't want to strip that down in any way, so they want to create their own. I even hear tell from some of the rumor sheets that even the guys backstage hate the name. Because it's the WWE Universe. Right. The crowds, the fans, they call it the WWE Universe, so I think they're playing off of that, trying to make it sound like WWE is superior to all the brands, which in some regards it is, especially with market share and how much money those guys can make. I don't know if I like the name, but it is going to be a big event, and it's a fun one to watch every year. If you're going to watch a few, I would say WrestleMania is probably the best. Always a big deal. They throw all the money behind it. the Summer Slam is usually one of the most fun and some of the best real matches. They're not going for fireworks, they're going for sweat and party at the beach. And I think this year will probably be a pretty good one. Maybe not the best on record from what I've been seeing, but it is always fun.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I mean, we both enjoy wrestling. I mean, you're in the position where you have a subscription to the WWE Network, so you always get to watch the not quite pay-per-views at your place and get to enjoy them. I was thinking about it the other day about wrestling and nerddom, kind of where we fit and what we talk about a lot. And I've always noticed that there are a lot of nerds and geeks and whatever you want to call them out there that like wrestling.
Yeah.
There's a huge overlap. And I've always thought that's really interesting because not all nerds, but there are a lot of nerdy types that don't like sporting events. I think among a lot of our friends, I'm the only one that enjoys baseball and football and keeps up with that kind of thing. And I'm just curious, why do you think it is that nerds seem to mostly love wrestling when they don't like other athletic stuff?
I think part of what works for nerds is fandom, is enthusiasm, and the ability to get behind characters. So if you don't know the character of a team, if you don't know the underdog versus the ground and pounders, certain football teams have a certain stigma about them. Mm-hmm. If you don't know that, it's hard to care about individuals, whereas that's what wrestling is. It's all about the characters, the individuals, the bigger story. It really becomes like a comic book come to life. Mm. Sometimes it's very realistic, and we're sort of in that age right now. In the 80s and 90s, well, the 80s it was very cartoonish, literally cartoonish in some regards. Yeah. The 90s and early 2000s got into this gritty era where it was all about how much you could get away with, the crazy storylines you could have. Today, it's more about real life. It's reality TV. So the more real you make it, the more like an MMA fight you make it, the more popular it's going to be. So the big crazy storylines tend to dwindle down. Yeah. And so I think nerds may be pulling away from it. But when it's Colossus versus Juggernaut in a comic book, but in real life now in the ring, you want to root for one side or the other. And the guys in the ring and the ladies in the ring are telling really great stories by what they do, by how they lose, by how they win. Mm-hmm. So I think
that's more than anything, it's the storytelling aspect of it?
That's a big part. And a lot of nerds, a lot of geeks and dweebs and the like, a lot of us are very dissatisfied by what we've been given in life. And that's why we do have this escapism. We want to put ourselves in a land where we are strong. Mm. And we have these people who are noble and righteous and above ever making a mistake. And then you have at one point, Hulk Hogan step in, who was the epitome of American strength and pride and goodness and eating your cereal and doing your push-ups, take your vitamins, what Hulk Hogan and Mr. T told us to do. Yeah. And a lot of us aspire to be that way. That Hulk Hogan at one point was a paladin. Yeah. He was strength and nobility and virtue. And then Rowdy Roddy Piper, he was a rogue. He was good, but he was mischievous. Mm-hmm. He was always up to something. He had a plan inside a plan. And he was willing to do the dirty deed to make it happen. And I think that's part of the draw. Yeah,
I think the other aspect I was thinking about is, if you look at, say, baseball, I played baseball as a kid. Not a huge amount, but I did. Other kids played football, and so you have that tie to that sport because it's something that you did and you can relate to it. I think a lot of kids who grew up watching wrestling, quote unquote, wrestled as kids. You played around and pretended you were wrestling. You didn't actually really, other than like the kids that do the backyard wrestling stuff, which is a whole different ballgame. But I think that's the other aspect of wrestling is that the two guys in the ring become a larger than life, like you said, comic book superhero kind of thing to aspire to. Whereas dudes on a football field, you're like, oh, well, I didn't, that's something that I could have grown up doing. It's realistic in a way. And so that it doesn't provide that escapism.
I actually think it's the other way around. If you work out hard enough, or even if you don't, you can be a wrestler. You can be a backyard wrestler. You can't be the quarterback of your team. Unless you're already given that genetic gift. Yet hard work goes into it, but doesn't anything. So I think it's almost the other way around. The wrestlers are guys that you grew up with who didn't make the football team. Yeah, of course some of them did, and they retired from football due to injury, and they go into wrestling. But they're more approachable, more realistic people outside of the ring. Whereas the people who are in sports, they're the millionaires who are doing ludicrous things that just seem like a person you could never be friends with, you could never connect with.
Yeah, I think what I've seen of wrestlers outside of the ring has generally been, they seem like really cool people, except for some extremely notable exceptions, which we won't go into, but, compared to football players or somebody like that.
I think part of it is also that with Mania comes collectability and comes the desire to keep up with this brand with comic books. X-Men should be doing 52 comic books a year. Just their one X-Men, or depending on how it goes, or 12 per year. But they're doing X-Men and Uncanny X-Men and X-Man or whatever it is. Right now, wrestling has, in WWE in particular, 2 shows per week live every week of the year.
Yeah.
Occasionally, they will do one-time. In the last couple of years, there was a blizzard, so they could not perform, and they showed almost like a best of. Like, here's some of the craziest things that happened in the last month.
But they still put something out.
They still put something out there, and there was still commentary. A few of the people who were able to make it into the studio, where they do some of the editing, the broadcasting, they came in and did some commentary. So they made it worthwhile. On top of that, there's things happening in the WWE network right now. Yeah. But multiple brands, you have TNA, you have Ring of Honor, you have Lucha Underground, you have some others that have their own style. So it's almost like Marvel versus DC versus Image Comics. And it depends on what you like. You can get your needs fulfilled in some other brand. And it all is speaking a similar language.
Whereas football or something, you get 16 weeks out of the year, and the rest of the year, nothing.
And then you got to wait through an entire baseball season. Or if you're lucky, every 4 years, the Olympics. So we talk a lot about fandom here. And one of the biggest and still growing is the Harry Potter series. And just this week, in the last couple days, information came out about 3 new collections of short stories that J.K. Rowling has written that are going to be released in digital format. These aren't going to be hardbound books. These are going to be
on Pottermore, or are they going to be sold separately?
They're from Pottermore. They were curated by the head people at Pottermore, but J.K. wrote it herself. And from what I'm gathering, they're going to be $3 each, and they're getting released here in just a couple weeks in September. September 6th, I think.
Wow. Cool.
What do you think about that? Because we were told that the last official chapter was going to be The Cursed Child. And yet here we are, and we're getting more supplements. It's nothing beyond The Cursed Child. It's all information. Let's see, one of them is Power, Politics, and Pesky Poltergeists, which is about Dolores Umbridge's relationship between, or just her rise to power.
Okay.
And more about Slughorn and Voldemort. There's another book called Heroism, Hardship, and Dangerous Hobbies that McGonagall and Lupin are profiled in.
Okay.
And Hogwarts, an Incomplete and Unreliable Guide, which is more about the secrets behind the walls of the Wizarding School.
It's a cute name. I like that.
That one's
the others are kind of boring.
Well, the Hogwarts one, it just says Hogwarts, a complete and reliable guide, and someone writes Anne, and then tags extra letters onto there, the wizards were sneaky and pesky, and put that on there. I got the Beetle the Bard and all the supplementary books when those came out, and those were a lot of fun to read. Magical Beasts and Where to Find Them, and the movies coming out for that. But what do you think about this?
I'm getting tired of J.K. Rowling saying that she's done with Harry Potter and then writing more Harry Potter stuff. Mm-hmm. If you want to keep writing Harry Potter stuff, nobody's going to be upset. You can keep doing that. You don't have to. I don't know. I think it was after the final book of the original series was done and the movies were all done, and she was not distancing herself from it, but felt like she was like doing what George Lucas said after he sold the Star Wars films to Disney, of like, oh, now I'm going to go off and do my own thing and write what I want to write and all that stuff. I don't know. I hate to hear that, because it's, that they're not. There's too much money. Of course she's going to come back. Of course she's going to do more Harry Potter stuff. She's not going to turn down how many billions of dollars she gets. But also, it's like, why do you have to do that as an artist? Mm-hmm. Why? And I guess, having never been an artist who's had something become massively successful and a worldwide phenomenon, I don't know how it feels, but it seems like artists who are in that position, a lot of times, when it's sort of quote unquote done, they take in a deep breath and they feel like, okay, now I can escape this phenomenon.
Well, I feel that she should step away and do more things and replenish her juices, but this is a universe that is beloved by people. I know people who have the Deathly Hallows as a tattoo.
Yeah.
And I see nothing wrong with that, because it's something that they can relate to and it creates a common language. Mm-hmm. But if there's more of a universe in your head, who better than her to pin it and put it together? Why not I'm taking 5-8 years off,
sure,
and then I would like to bring another book. It would be a continuation in this universe, although not necessarily in this specific storyline. Let's go to the American Wizarding School. Let's go somewhere else and tell the story in that unique and special world.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because you see it. I think you've seen it more with authors and movie makers, whereas, comic books or something like that, everybody, the creator's happy to keep going back, returning to the same well. I think there's something about authors and movie makers to where there's this long history, especially authors, of being a quote-unquote an auteur, who's going to make art. And so when somebody like J.K. Rowling comes along and writes a book that she obviously cares a lot about, and it's super successful, she feels like it being successful takes away from her as an artist. And I find that sad, because it's like, well, it's the same thing with George Lucas, where he said when he finished the Star Wars movies, he wanted to make small student film type stuff again and be an artist again. I like I said, I don't know that I can fully understand it, but I don't get why artists feel that need. Like, you should be happy that the art that you made is amazing and everybody loves it, and we want you to keep making it. And you should, if the Harry Potter series inspired her to write, 7 books? 6 books? 7 books.
7 books.
7 books originally. If it inspired you enough to write that many books, it's okay to have it inspire you to do more. You don't have to, like you said, if you need to step aside and recharge your creative juices or whatever, that's totally understandable too. But I don't know. I mean, I'm happy that she's coming back to a series. I'm not the biggest fan, but I know that there are, many, many thousands of folks that are. It's the Star Wars of our time. So, it's as if, George Lucas had come back in the late 80s and said, hey, I'm returning to the series again. Awesome. We would all have been thrilled, instead of him waiting till the mid-90s and becoming crazy and making garbage.
Well, for goodness sake, her website that she owns and operates is called Pottermore.
Mm-hmm. More Potter.
She named it that. Bring us more. And what I do like about the website, although it's been so cryptic that I can barely understand it, is that there is new stuff given.
Yeah.
There are occasional short stories or pictures or backstories that are given. And I think that's great for the fans, and it just keeps it alive and sort of keeps it organic, because there's a lot of backstory in the creation of a character that is evidenced as you go through their entire arc, but then to learn more about where they came from, that you, as the artist, as the author, knew about, that no one else did. It said, oh, aha, that explains a little bit more why Harry's parents acted the way they did, or why Snape felt that way about his parents, that you didn't really know until way later in the books. The same thing happens here, why not tell more books that tell more of that hidden story that she already has that we haven't been privy to? It doesn't have to be these little short stories. Yeah. It can be a continuation, a new narrative, but it still informs what we already know.
Sure.
There's more to be said. There's more to be told, and I think she probably should do it.
Well, there's definitely more to be told because I just saw a posting the other day that Pottermore itself is hiring freelance writers with, I think it said, a deep knowledge of the Harry Potter universe. So there's definitely more to be said that's going to be said by people who aren't J.K. Rowling. You know, they're hiring more people to create more content for that universe.
And I think I have a few friends who are probably going to be applying right away.
I'm sure, yeah. If you're listening to this and you're a Harry Potter fan, go apply.
All right, so I presented you with a challenge earlier today.
Yeah.
I wanted to compare lists with you about some nostalgia because I think you and I both, as 80s kids, grew up sort of as latchkey kids a bit. I know I was.
I wouldn't call myself a latchkey kid, but I definitely had plenty of time in the house watching TV and playing games.
And one of the biggest things for us growing up was Saturday morning cartoons.
Absolutely.
It is really a thing of the past today, which is a shame. But thinking about it, there were some that I would get up early anticipating. I knew what channel it was on. I knew when it would come on.
Oh, yeah. And then when they changed up things and you didn't know about it because the internet didn't exist, it pissed you the hell off.
And you wouldn't know how to find it. You just have to get up early and try to watch
and relearn the new schedule.
Like, when the hell is Street Sharks coming back on?
It's awful. Awful feeling.
So I wanted to compare a list with you about your top 10 favorite cartoons of all time. So that does include more of the adult years, which is represented in my personal list. And I struggled with this list.
I did too. It was funny, actually, when you first proposed this to me. Initially, I struggled because I couldn't think of anything. I was like, I can think of like 2 or 3 cartoons that I think are pretty good. But,
yeah.
But then as the day went on and I thought about it more and I started, you remember one show and it leads you to remember 4 more. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I've got too many options to think about for a top 10 list.
Yeah, sometimes I would go, oh yeah, that show. But then I would realize that I was talking about Saturday night Nickelodeon shows that were live action. I'm like, The Secret Life of Alex Mack is not a cartoon.
Yeah, no, I would disallow that because it's not a cartoon.
So, how about we go back and forth? I'm putting mine in numerical order, going from 10 to 1.
I've got my list out in front of me, and honestly, as I'm sitting here looking at it, I'm rewriting it because there's too many options.
Well, in the meantime, I will say that I created a sort of a system that helped me decide because I've got a list here of about 25.
All right. But
I thought about rewatchability. What could I sit down and watch again right now? Now, that's not the most crucial, but that is a factor. Also, are the characters engaging? Mm-hmm. Are they interesting? Are they a little bit more than just a cardboard cutout? Even though we're talking about cartoons on celluloid.
They're literally cardboard cutouts in some cases.
The depth of stories overall. Mm-hmm. They don't have to all be deep, but there should be something to them. The theme song is important to me as well, if it's catchy. And then nostalgia. If I were to look back on it, if it was a newer cartoon in, say, 5, 10, 20 years, would it tell me a little bit something about the time, and would it pull on my heart in a different way? So I had a huge list of things. I was just adding more and more the more I thought about it. And I did something interesting, and I asked you about this too. No more than one per creator, possibly. So if one person was the head creator for this one, they couldn't be the other.
I think I've tried my best to break it up in that way. I think I did.
It's never guaranteed. You go, oh, by the way, that it's not the storyboard artist and
that's we don't need to be in too detail about this. Nobody's.
And then I also broke it down into not the same universe. So that actually.
Oh.
Now that's okay if you don't have.
I'm gonna.
Because I have one cheat.
I do have. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna keep my list because I do have one small cheat on it.
Just keep it. Yeah, just keep it. It's
but
fine.
I think you'll be okay with it.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay. Do you want to go back and forth starting at 10?
Yes. Okay. I'll start. Number 10 for me is Recess.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Recess. That one I loved because it was very much like being a kid again.
It was,
the things they cared about.
Yeah.
But they were also problem solvers, and at best, they were always friends. Friendship would always come out.
It was a good show with good archetypes, which is always something interesting for a kids show where you have archetypes that you want to live up to. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, I want to be the sporty kid. I want to be the nerdy kid.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting.
And because of that, I gave a runner-up in that position to Ed, Edd, and Eddy. Very similar kind of cartoon.
Okay, yeah.
But Recess, I have more love for.
Yeah, Recess is a little bit more grounded. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to do... Can I do some honorable mentions, or do you want to wait until the end to do those?
Yeah, let's give some honorable mentions. Sure.
Okay, honorable mentions. I'll just throw out 3 honorable mentions really quick. Actually, I'm going to throw out 5 honorable mentions because holy crap. First of all would be just the Warner Brothers cartoon universe.
Looney
Tunes and all that, Roadrunner, all that good stuff. I used to watch a ton of it. You don't see it on TV ever anymore, but loved all that stuff. Similar vein, Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo was a great cartoon. I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but I enjoyed it once in a while, and great show. Transformers, slightly before my time. I am an 80s kid, but it was I was a little younger when Transformers was a big thing, but still, I mean, you can't beat it, especially just the influence of the toy line.
Absolutely.
Dexter's Lab. Came close to my top 10, but I'm going to put it in honorable mentions. Excellent show. Genny Tartakovsky is, I think I said that right, is a really cool guy. I like his stuff.
I give that one a runner-up in mine, too.
I like Dex Lab a lot. And then... This one was tough to leave off my list, but I decided to. Real Monsters.
That's on my list of honorable mentions. That was so close.
It's a great
show. What a dark, crazy show.
I told somebody earlier today, that show is Harry Potter for goth 80s or 90s kids. Where it's like kids in a school, but they're evil monsters.
They're evil monsters. Their whole gig in life is to scare kids.
Great show.
Yeah, that definitely... I think Monsters, Inc. owes a lot of money to Real Monsters.
It does, yeah. Yeah, there was some influence there.
A couple that I would put in honorable mention that were just right outside. You've got The Tick.
Oh, I forgot about The Tick. Great show.
That's what I'm saying. There's so many that you forget about that were just so up there. The Tick, I just love the lampooning, but yet it didn't take itself so seriously, but it's almost like the characters still mattered to each other.
Yeah.
I really liked Codename Kids Next Door for some reason.
I never watched that one. I remember seeing it, but I never...
That one had a compelling story, especially in the long run, and the inventive use that they did of taking household items and turning them into weapons and the things that kids would actually think of.
Yeah.
Like putting extra batteries on a refrigerator and make that a freeze ray. Like weird things like that. I also gave love to Beetlejuice, the cartoon.
I thought about that one. I used to watch that a lot.
I think that one was taken way too early because they did nothing but repeats for a long time. And that's a lot like Real Monsters, where had those shows been able to go the long run and tell bigger stories, so much fun. And occasionally pretty funny. And the last one that I have for an honorable mention would probably have to go to Chowder. That's a newer cartoon that was really silly.
Either. I know there's a lot of online folks that like that.
Yeah, C.H. Greenblatt was the guy behind that one. And it is unbelievably funny, and it breaks the fourth wall in so many ways that you realize that they're taking the Mickey out of you. They're almost joking at you for watching it. Clever show. And then the characters are pretty funny.
So just hearing your honorable mentions reminded me of 2 more honorable mentions that I'm not going to try and integrate in my list, but if I had more time, I might have. I'll just throw them out really quick because I don't want to spoil if anything's on your list because I haven't seen it. But Beavis and Butthead. Completely forgot about Beavis and Butthead. Great show. Great show for the Generation X types. And then Adventure Time. When you said Chowder reminded me, I love Adventure Time. Of the like new weird surrealist kids shows, I think it's by far the best. There's a lot of garbage kid shows out that try to ape it. Really, really excellent. But But anyway,
I could pull more, but let's go ahead and jump into the rest of the top 10
here.
I gave you my number 10, which was Recess. What's your number 10?
My number 10, and it pains me to put it this low, but I'll explain why later. DuckTales.
Ooh.
DuckTales was a wonderful show that touched on a lot of topics, was a lot of fun. Scrooge McDuck is a great character. And
surprisingly deep character after being such an archetype of not the regular Scrooge.
Yeah.
It's like, what was his name? Oh, it was Scrooge.
It was a fun mixture of, Indiana Jones and a bunch of other stuff. It was I always enjoyed that show quite a bit. But number 9 for you?
Number 9 for me, Buzz Lightyear of Star Command.
Another one I never saw.
That one had... So they took Buzz Lightyear's character and threw it into the universe almost as if this was a cartoon.
It was the cartoon that would have existed in the universe that the toy existed in.
Or that the toy was real and there was a universe where this thing happened, it would be there. But the side characters were incredibly deep and funny. One of them was a robot, one of them was just a larger beast kind of character, and then your smart, sassy woman. But they went on adventures and they did things that a good space exploring, laser shooting kids comedy, very much like DuckTales, that I found incredibly charming. I was surprised by how charming it was, so that when it would come on early in the mornings, I would try to catch it.
Yeah. Number 9 for me is more than anything just a nostalgia choice, G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
Grew up watching it, had hundreds of G.I. Joes. Loved the video game. The arcade game especially is just phenomenal. The quality of the show, I don't know, is honestly particularly high. I haven't watched it in a long time.
It had its ups and downs.
Announcements are
the
cute,
movies were amazing.
Yeah, the first movie is dark and really cool. But yeah, G.I. Joe for more than anything, just because that was such a big part of my childhood.
Mm-hmm. I loved that one, and I put it... That was in the far deep honorable mentions, but I realized that I didn't watch a lot of the cartoon growing up. The movie was a staple for me. But number 8 was Thundercats. So still in the same universe.
Thundercats!
What I liked most about it is that it was such a unique premise that it was so far away they could tell interesting stories. And a lot of them were the same... problem of the week, and they barely get by, and the animation was never good as the intro. But I thought that was such a cool show as a kid, and they were human, but they weren't human, and that was sort of my step into the anthropomorphic.
Yeah, neat twist on design. Mm-hmm. And it makes me, between DuckTales and Thundercats, it makes me wonder why more 80s kids aren't furries.
It's sort of just genetically driven into us that we grew up with all these human, not human characters. Yeah. But I gave an honorable mention because it's so close to He-Man here.
Yeah, similar show.
Very similar. Yeah. Actually, they are going to be doing a crossover event in October, a 6-issue comic book series where the bad guys get together and the good guys get together. So I'm actually looking forward to maybe getting into that.
Seeing Mum-Ra and Skeletor?
Mum-Ra and Skeletor.
That would be fun.
Similar look. Maybe they just compare draperies. And
sure, they could build a super castle together.
One teaches the other how to bleach their bones. That could be sweet.
Number 8 for me is Doug.
Oh, yeah.
The original Doug, I'm gonna put a caveat here. The Doug on Nickelodeon, not the Doug on Disney. When they redid Doug and made new episodes, and it was garbage and bad. The original Nickelodeon Doug was a good show. I think it was weird in a good way, and it spoke to me as a kind of a weird outsider kid, because Doug was kind of a weirdy nerd outsider goofball. So that was a character that you could relate with, for sure, for me.
I recently read an article, and I think it was the creator of Doug, who said, I want to put it to rest, will Doug and Patty Mayonnaise get together? And he said no. Oh. That they would become really good friends, and that friendship would allow him to be able to open up, and that Doug would find another woman who they would be friends with, and he would still kind of talk about Patty and maybe want to be with her, and he would realize how much he and Patty had in common as friends, but then this other woman would become his significant love interest.
How realistic is that?
Very realistic.
How many people do you know that married their middle school sweetheart?
Just my sister.
Yeah, very few.
That's the only one.
Very few. So yeah, I like that a lot.
Well, I know some people who did marry their middle school, high school sweetheart, but it was after the divorces were final.
Okay. How about number 7?
Number 7 for me was The Real Ghostbusters.
Yeah, that's actually another one I kind of forgot about, but yeah.
It's twisted show at times. Sometimes it was the monster of the week.
Sure, yeah.
Unabashedly so, but sometimes they added these drawn-out, scary, creepy creatures. And it felt like a pretty concise show that it got into the plot. You know, occasionally there was a one-off where Slimer was just floating around town getting into trouble. But I thought that was great. And I think it's interesting to compare that to a cartoon that came out at the same time called Ghostbusters.
Are you talking about the live-action TV show
Well,
Ghostbusters?
It was based on the live-action TV show.
Oh, they made a cartoon? Okay.
The 1975 live-action TV show, they did a spin-off of that because Hanna-Barbera had to, or whoever making the movie, they had to get the licensing to use the name for the movie.
Yeah.
But they didn't for the cartoon.
That's why it was called The Real Ghostbusters.
So Hanna-Barbera made the cartoon Ghostbusters,
yeah,
and therefore the name. So the show, I remember as a kid getting up and Ghostbusters was on.
Yeah.
And it was 2 dudes in like safari gear.
Yes.
And a
monkey.
Walking ape. And they got in this weird coach car.
You're like, where the hell's he gone? Where's Ray?
This is a weird spin-off. And it wasn't until I was an adult and had the internet I figured
out what happened there.
Yeah, Real Ghostbusters. Cool cartoon.
Number 7 for me, super vintage Jetsons.
Nice.
The Jetsons. I didn't watch a massive amount as a kid, although I saw a fairly good number of episodes. I picked the Jetsons only because of the influence, like, on me culturally in a way, as a nerd, as like, I think it helped spark an interest in the future, in space travel, in technology, computers, robotics, like all of the weird things that, they were the fluff of the show, but, you watch that enough and you grow up thinking about those kinds of things.
It was hyper stylized, and I thought that's what was cool. Of course, it was
cool
door
style.
Opens, robot stick hand comes out, hands you thing. But the cars, the ships, I like that it was clean lines, and there wasn't a cartoon like that at all.
Yeah, very modern design, which I still to this day love modern design, especially for interior decorating. If anybody's looking to like send me furniture, I like modern design.
For me, number 6, you already said, how do you pronounce his name? Genndy?
Genndy or Genndy Tartakovsky. I always have trouble with his name.
Dexter's Lab was like the runner-up for me, but I went Samurai Jack.
Yeah.
Loved that show. I didn't get into it as early. I thought it was kind of silly.
Yeah.
Then when I saw the art style, then when I saw how deep the cartoon was, and then a couple times in a season, there would be a callback to something that happened or a character that Jack had run into, and then it is that beautiful Japanese story of the nameless samurai constantly going about his life, fighting the good fight, but never... It's very much Quantum Leap, but never making it home, as far as we know.
Did you know that there's a theory that Samurai Jack took place in a post-apocalyptic world of the Powerpuff Girls?
I did hear that, and I have seen
There's compelling evidence.
The pictures and how this
like
area
a destroyed town and stuff. So we're on number 6. My number 6, getting a little bit more modern, away from my older stuff here. King of the Hill.
King of the Hill. Wow.
Going with a primetime cartoon.
Didn't think
here.
of that one.
You don't. We're talking about like old retro cartoons you liked as a kid. King of the Hill definitely isn't a Saturday morning cartoon, but I like it a lot. I think there's a lot of people out there that don't really enjoy it. I love Mike Judge. I like his stuff and his. While I mentioned Beavis and Butthead earlier. I love the humor of the show, and I love the earnestness of the show. Yeah.
Well, it was a parody, but like you said, it's very earnest.
It's interesting because it's something written only, and I think this is why I connect with it in some ways. It's someone doing a send-up of conservative America who grew up in conservative America.
Yeah.
And as someone who's grown up there, that speaks to me a lot because it's like you can make fun of rednecks while still having a little bit of love for rednecks.
And showing why they do what they do and say what they say.
Exactly, yeah. That's what that show's about.
Number 5 for me, you already touched on it, is Adventure Time.
Great show.
That show continues to get better. I don't know if it's still in full production. Came out in 2010. I know that the creator has done some other things. I know they've done some newer movies, but I haven't been able to keep up with it. I love the idea of being able to tell those adventure Dungeons and Dragons-ish, but with a little bit of a kiddie twist.
A bit of weirdness to it.
But a lot of weirdness, but they do it in such smart ways. I remember one where they kept fighting these things and kicking their ass, and all of a sudden they have so much gear they can't carry it around anymore. So many cool things, like a glove that does a thing, and a sword that does a thing, and then you're just covered in gear. And I'm like, I've played a role-playing game where that's happened before. But it's funny, and they continue to change it. And another one where the plot continues to go on. Whatever happens in the country still matters. Maybe the next episode you see that building's still on fire in the background.
Yeah, I like that show a lot because it's, a lot of modern kid shows that are, like I said, that are aping Adventure Time fall into the trap of LOL so random, where it's like, oh, he's wacky because you said a wacky thing. Isn't that funny? Whereas Adventure Time, there's plenty of wacky things that happen, but they make sense in the world, and they're funny, and they're smart in how they do it. I don't know. It's hard to describe, but there's a fine edge there. So total agreement on that. Number 5 for me is going to be Captain Planet.
Oh, you're digging into some nice 80s cartoons.
Yeah, these are some. Well, I think
90s.
Captain Planet was early 90s, wasn't it? I was thinking a lot on this list about shows that kind of affected me and made me who I am today, and Captain Planet did. It's a hokey show. If you watch it today, it's hard to watch because it is so goofy.
Unbelievably hokey.
But, it came out at a time when, this was at the end of the Reagan 80s where, environmentalism was weird. I think most younger folks today, are comfortable talking about climate change or whatever the case may be. But when we were kids, that wasn't something you talked about. So to have Captain Planet out there talking about environmental issues and how you need to be cognizant of your place in the world, that was interesting. Plus, the Russian girl was hot.
She was hot. And also, I love hearing Geordie LaForge as a young man with stone issues. For me, number 4, and I have to be clear, is Teen Titans.
Okay.
Not Teen Titans Go.
The older Teen Titans.
But the slightly older Teen Titans. That one took me by surprise because I never got into the younger set of the DC Universe too much. I knew who they were. I knew kind of what they were about. But that cartoon had such a cool style that was easy to get into, but you could appreciate in the long term. I like the idea that the art behind it could still be used graphically as well as a little more realistic. So when they went to like Teen Titans Go, it got too cartoonish, too manga.
Yeah, it's got a little Japanese.
I gave
not that there's anything wrong with that, but
no, it just wasn't for me.
It's a little different.
The humor changed in it as well. I needed to be a little more serious, and they got
started to be LOL, random, wacky.
When they told the Terra storyline, that had me because that was some of it was straight out of the comics, and the rest of it that was reinterpreted fit pitch perfect. And I give a shout out, honorable mention to Young Justice that died way too soon.
Yeah,
that got damn good at the end. Like real gripping storylines, good twists, subterfuge. I would love to see that back, and I know there are some online petitions. I need to find them. I need to sign them.
Yeah.
Because people are hoping that maybe it would come back for something like Netflix.
Yeah, a web series.
And if it did, that would destroy.
Yeah. Number 4 for me is going to be Rocko's Modern Life.
Yeah, that is in my honorables. That's
another,
so good.
Classic Nickelodeon. Push the boundaries in a wonderful way. Rocko's Modern Life reminded me a little bit of Ren and Stimpy, which I'll say for the record, I don't like Ren and Stimpy. I watched it all when I was a kid, including the million repeats because the creators of... Well, anyway, we won't go into it.
They had about 4.5 seasons, and it took them 8 years to get there.
Exactly, but Rocko's Modern Life, had a lot of edgy humor that as a kid you didn't get, and now you get as an adult. That is hilarious, but it was also hilarious as a kid. Again, a show with a weird style that was unique and fun, and kind of, a relatable character. Rocko is this meek little quiet guy who just wants a normal, quiet life. And, yeah, I can totally relate with that.
He's sort of like your everyday marsupial.
Yeah, he's an everyday wallaby.
For me, number 3, and now I'm getting into what I think might be obvious if you know any
Top
about
3.
me. Top 3. Another one that went way too soon, super edgy, was Invader Zim.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I loved Invader Zim. I got the DVDs as soon as I could. I watched them on repeat. I loaned them out to people. And once they were done with it, they said, "Why didn't this continue?" Because it was dark, but it was so funny.
Yeah. It's a show I never got into, unfortunately, and then it was gone before I could.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There was a lot that had to do with the issues with Nickelodeon, that it was too dark, because one of the famous episodes, there was supposed to be this huge blast that was slowly growing and growing and growing, and this was going to air right after 9/11. So they had to do a quick edit where the blast, instead of being red, was green. And they had to tone down a little bit the devastation that was going to happen to the city. Otherwise, it would parallel. And so I think timing also hurt that show in the aftermath of 9/11, because it was about an alien trying to take over the world and destroy it.
Yeah.
So anything he did to blow stuff up might have been considered tasteless.
Yeah, you can't have a bad guy at that time.
But even where the hero is one of the most annoying characters, who has this high-pitched, scratchy voice, and he's insane, and even when the alien is just going to class, he's calling him out on stuff and trying to expose him for what he is, and he's just going to the water fountain. Super fun cartoon.
Number 3 for me, and again, in the top 3, so those are the big boys. Number 3, Uncanny X-Men.
Oh, that was my number 11. I should have mentioned it earlier. Good choice.
Just a great cartoon. It was, I waffled a bit about this or Batman, the animated series, but in my mind they're similar. Uncanny X-Men, just, you took the great characters off the comic book page and put them on television. Good stories, good acting. The artwork was passable for an early 90s cartoon. It was what you would expect. It could have been better, but yeah, they all could have been better. Great theme song.
But no words, so you just felt the pure
you just got
sense.
ready. You heard that and you're like, I'm ready for this show to start.
But they did something really cool with that show is, and I don't remember how it was described, but instead of them coloring on a white or clear background, they're basically coloring on a dark background. So everything seemed really saturated in shadow and darkness.
Yeah, it was always like any night scenes in that show were really dark and spooky.
Just made it seem a little darker, a little more edgy than anything else that was on TV at the time.
And that fits X-Men.
I think we may have something similar here. I don't know for certain.
Okay.
Maybe not, because we've not really touched on anything the same.
Yeah, I've been surprised we haven't overlapped at all yet. Yeah.
And with what I think you gave away your hand a little bit that we may not have it, but for me, number 2 was Avatar: The Last Airbender.
That was a consideration for me.
What a beautiful, poetic show.
Yep, it's very good.
Yes, you've got your children who do kiddie things, and sometimes the humor is a little too silly just for silly's sake, but the moments when it hits, the moments of emotion where characters get revenge, or they don't get revenge, or redemption, or they don't get redemption, it just gets you every time. And that's one that I plan to rewatch here in the next few months.
Yeah, I'd like to rewatch it again, too. That was a show that I avoided for a long time because generally when kids' cartoons get popular with older folks, I usually stay away from them because I expect them to be garbage. I don't ask me exactly why. And I finally caved in and watched the show, and I'm glad I did because it's really good. It's really... What I like about it most is it's mature but not I mean, it has mature themes to a certain extent, but it's not mature in the way where it's trying to be dark or edgy.
Right.
But it speaks to kids in a mature way.
It doesn't preach either.
It doesn't. Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Is it doesn't preach. It doesn't go overboard. It's not edgy for edgy's sake. It's not mature theme for mature theme. It's just an honest show that presents themes.
I give an honorable mention to Korra, the sequel. It was not as good, but it is still another story, 60, 70 years in the future. And I thought it was still quality. Had one of the most holy crap moments I've ever seen. And if you get to watch it, you will text me
because I'm sure I will eventually watch it.
I think you'll like it, and I'm happy to loan you the DVDs.
All right, number 2 for me. This is a important personal choice, and I'll just say it: Tailspin. On the Disney Channel, there alongside of DuckTales, same universe. That's what I was saying. I didn't want to break the rule there. Theoretically, I guess the same universe. I don't remember if there was a crossover. But Tailspin, being a little kid, I've always loved airplanes. Tailspin was my jam. It was a show that was based on airplanes and around. It's not even just airplanes, but the early 30s golden age of aviation, which is a aesthetic style that I just love to death. Art Deco and really cool.
The style of it was great.
And I'm in a position now in my adult life where I'm training to have a career in aviation, and I can credit at least partially this show for that.
What I liked is that it took a lot of the characters from Jungle Book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and used those.
It was a retelling of the Jungle Book in a certain way,
And to your point, it was connected to Tailspin because of Launchpad McQuack.
Was Launchpad in it?
Launchpad was in it, too.
In Tailspin?
At some point, yeah.
I don't remember that episode.
I'm
sure you're right, but I just can't remember it.
But yeah, I remember the movie that came out, prepping the cartoon, where the little
2
boy
hour...
is on his airfoil, and he's like surfing behind the plane, and just the idea of them, they were merchants. They were a delivery service.
It reminded me of Star Wars in that way, where it's a story about like gritty kind of real world. It's not the king and his son. It's some people who deliver packages.
It's not a billionaire, a multi-bill trillionaire.
Yeah. Although Shere Khan was a billionaire in the show.
What about Don Carnage?
Don Carnage! If I ever actually do a furry costume, that might be the one.
I think that'd be pretty hot. For me, number 1, you already touched on it. Batman the Animated Series.
It's a solid choice.
This is rewatchable.
Yeah.
This is art, in my opinion. But still
good.
Cool as a kid. You just go, oh, I want to be Batman. Mm-hmm. But you watch it as a teenager and you think, oh, that's still kind of cool. And as an adult, you get into the depth of the stories. One particular, the story of Clayface. Yes. His origin was heartbreaking.
Yeah, I remember.
Felt so bad for that guy. He didn't ask for that to happen to him, and yet the decisions he made to go down the path of violence and being a criminal were a lot more understandable. And that even translates, not officially, into Batman Beyond, since it is a true continuation of the story.
Yeah, the sequel to it. An excellent show, and one of the best, portrayals of Batman outside of the comic books ever.
By most fans, Kevin Conroy is Batman.
Yeah, and I've had this discussion with other folks before. Mark Hamill is the Joker to me more than Heath Ledger or Jack Nicholson or what the new guy, Jared Leto, I guess. I don't know. I haven't seen that one, but no, that's the ultimate Joker for me. Again, outside the comics,
the pitch of his voice when he does a laugh or draws a line. Mark Hamill's my Joker.
So my number 1, the big one, and again, I guess I'm cheating a little bit and going outside of, not necessarily childhood, but normal Saturday morning childhood, The Simpsons.
I had a feeling.
The Simpsons is the greatest television ever produced. The first 8, 9, maybe even 10 seasons. The best things ever put on television. The funniest show ever made.
I would agree, for sure.
Anyone who disagrees, I'm going to punch him in the mouth because you're wrong.
Careful. I might need to punch him because I got really lost 14, 18, 27 seasons in because, as we talked about before, too much of a good thing.
Yes.
I think they never revolutionized the show. And maybe that's part of the draw. I think they don't have to change.
Yeah.
The parody and what they talk about that's real is great, but I can still go back and watch their Treehouse of Horror shows.
Yeah, the first...
And they're still good.
First few of the... I mean, yeah, like I said, up until... I'll be super generous here and say up until about season 10, great show. Mm-hmm. And then they rapidly started to become a parody of themselves and betray everything that the characters stood for. Got rid of all the good writers. It was just... It's became a zombie show, and it's sad that it's run so much longer as a terrible, worst thing on television. It's been that longer than it was the greatest thing ever put to television, which it was.
Well, I won't. If 90s. It came on tonight, I would not watch it. But if you said, I have a DVD of season 3,
yes,
pretty much any episode you pick is going to be good. Well, Zach, in this episode's Table Topics, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about something that we're enjoying right now. We both have a splash of a beer coming from Brothers Craft Brewing.
Yeah, where are they from?
They're from Harrisonburg, Virginia.
Oh,
found them. They have a really nice selection of beers. They've got all kinds of ales and what else did we have already?
We had a Maibach earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, from them, which was nice. And we had a double IPA, which was really nice.
I was surprised. I think that was... I don't remember having that one while I was there. I remembered seeing the name but not drinking it. I tried most of these in a tasting flight. This one is called Pils Nerd. So like Pils Nerd, but Nerd. And what's great about the label is that it is pixelized from their logo, so it looks like an 8-bit game.
Yeah, it's very neat.
Almost like a Bob-omb or a Bullet Bill sort of look to it.
And they got sort of the little faux NES controller down there for the name of the beer, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, so this sort of inspired me to want to talk to you about drinking in role-playing games.
Okay.
Both in the game and outside of the game. Because most of the time when we gather with our friends and we are going to play, there is usually an abundance of drinks.
Sure. Well, we're all over 21 at this point, so it's not like the stereotypical nerd group. And when you're all teenagers, you're drinking Mountain Dew. Which
is still great and sometimes necessary.
Place for that, but
and we are also in Beer City, USA, 2015
and 2014.
It was 13, I think.
Asheville, North Carolina.
Asheville, North Carolina, where there is an abundance of good local brew.
I would say an overabundance. It's hard to drink all of the great beers in Asheville because there's just so many.
So outside of game, it's sort of natural for us. Usually when we gather, it's an opportunity for us to share beverages. Yeah. The last game we had, you brought something special.
Brought a vintage bottle I had.
It was awesome. A lot of times you're able to bring great beers. I try to find great wines.
Yep.
We have a friend who brings in meads and apple ales,
all kinds of interesting
apple
stuff,
ciders. Yeah. So what do you think about the inclusion outside of the game? Because it's almost become habitual for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is partially, once you reach a certain age, drinking goes from, hey, dude, let's go to a bar and get drunk, to we're everybody getting together, let's have a couple of drinks. You're not over drinking, but you need that lubrication to relax. We all work. Some of us go to school. It's, we all have a lot of responsibilities and a lot of long days. So in order to get settled down and get into a position to relax and have fun, alcohol is there. I don't want to say we need it as a crutch, because I don't think that we do, but it's nice to have as adults and allow you to kind of relax just a little bit.
Yeah, I think you make a good point there. It helps bring us down from whatever the day is, so we can go into the moment and play together, but I also think it does help lubricate us in a ways, because a lot of geeks, a lot of nerds may have a problem talking and sharing and getting involved and invested, and maybe that helps there. I don't think it necessarily does, but it's almost as if it couldn't hurt.
Yeah, I mean,
within
I
reason.
think a lot of nerds tend to be introverts, but if you're with a group of 4 of your 5 friends, usually you're not going to be that introverted. But even still, it can help you open up. And I know personally, for me, I generally don't always do voices for my characters' accents, whatever the case may be. But if I've had a couple of beers, I'm a bit more likely to at least try. Usually, the accents are a lot worse, but yeah, that's for a different reason.
And I think it also, when it's done in someone's home as opposed to professional gaming or gaming somewhere out in public, it becomes a hospitality thing, that I would like to have something for everyone to drink, whether it be a sweet tea or a beer. And it's an inviting thing, I think, too. Yeah,
as a host, you want to make everyone feel welcome, and one of the great ways of doing that is providing food and drink.
Yeah. What's your favorite thing to drink in a game?
During a game? While playing a game?
While playing a game.
I typically am going to tend toward beer, just because I have ready access to beer for a couple of different reasons. So I've always got beer laying around. I find it to be the most drinkable of alcoholic beverages in terms of over the course of several hours. I think it's the carbonation. Grew up drinking soda, which is terrible for me, but I like that carbonation. It feels more like a treat. Whereas a glass of wine, I might have one, and that's about all I want in a glass of wine. Or a mixed drink, I do enjoy some mixed drinks more than others. Gin and tonic, something good and fizzy. I can drink several of those, but something high alcohol, I'm not going to have a lot of. So a beer is a sessionable drink for me. So when you're talking about playing for 3, 4, 5 hours, that's what I need.
I think I prefer beer to a degree, because usually we have a mixture. So I can try this IPA and this other ale of some kind, and it keeps things going throughout the night, trying new things, sharing beers. Yeah. But I think I'm starting to shift away beer just a little bit because of the carbonation. A lot of times I'm game master, and so to be able to feel comfortable and not be belching and not have a swollen stomach full of gas.
That's part of the issue,
I've started to maybe split half beer and half wine, or beer and a mixed drink or two, just so that I have something, because I do enjoy that, and it's one of the few times that I do have a few drinks.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point, from a physical aspect, but also from a different aspect of overindulging. I think that's something you always have to be careful about.
Sure.
When you're in an RPG, if you're just with your friends, okay, get drunk, whatever, everybody laughs, it's fun. But if you're playing a game, especially if you're the GM and you're running the game, you do have to be careful. You don't want to drink too much, because you lose your judgment, you get a little silly. That can lead to some fun games sometimes. If you're playing a lighthearted game, it's a ton of fun, but if you're trying to run a serious game as a GM, you do need to be careful. And as a player too, if you've had too much to drink, you might not. You might be willing to do things that your character normally wouldn't do, and then after the game, you might regret it. It's just like alcohol's effect on anything else in life. It's going to lead you to do things maybe you regret in the morning.
Have you ever played a game where someone did get drunk?
I was thinking about that actually as I was speaking about that point, thinking back to a game where, trying to remember if we've ever had a position where somebody's had too much to drink. I can't say that I have. I think there were a couple of games that I GM'd in our Star Wars game where I had a lot to drink, knowing that I could, because certain sessions of that game were light from the hip, silly, and you could kind of get away with it.
Plus, you were home.
Yeah, and I was at my own home. Yeah, I didn't have to drive or anything. But thinking back beyond that, I can't. And even then, I don't want to sound like I was smashed, because I wasn't. But
no, I don't ever remember getting smashed.
I can't remember any game that we've ever played where anybody has overindulged to the point where it's really hurt the game.
Mm-hmm. There have been a few games where after everyone has left my home, I felt myself get drunker. Because I didn't realize that I'd had one or two more drinks than I normally would that night, but it wasn't affecting me until the game's over. Plus, I'm hyper vigilant. I'm trying to run things and be the entire universe for everybody. Sure. So I'm not letting things slip. And then as soon as I get comfortable, whoa, that was more than I thought.
It would always used to do me when I was GMing at home and I had a fair amount of drink every night was everybody leaves and you stand up. Because you're sitting at the GM in the center, and you stand up and you're like, whoa, okay, I actually did have 4, 5, 6 beers in the past hour.
It was more when I do the dishes. Everybody's gone home. Well, my friends had a great time. I'm so glad. I'll see them soon. Now I have to wash up, and I'm leaning over the sink with the hot steam on my face going, I'd really rather lay down right now. This is tough.
Yeah.
Well, there are some games that invite drinking.
Sure.
That, not just drinking games.
I was going to say, you mean drinking games, sir?
But no, there are a couple of games out there that are RPG based, but are meant to be drunk along with.
Yeah.
One of them's called, Drinking Quest. And that's probably the most successful, probably the best out of them, because usually it's, number one is an avenue to get drunk. And then it's a poor game at best. It's just a thinly veiled attempt to have everyone drink.
Yeah, and I think there's a place for that. I don't know. I think definitely you and I are older, and most of our friends are getting to the point where, you don't necessarily want to do that all that much anymore. Back in the early 20s and you're in college, that's a hell of a lot of fun, but...
I still didn't even like it, Ben, and so I didn't really do it. I always felt like I was just hurting myself, and the amount of enjoyment I got before that point was nowhere near equitable. Yeah. So if I ever did it, it was purely by accident. Yeah. And when it comes to gaming with other people, one of the last things I want to do is embarrass myself. Sure. Unless I do it on purpose.
Yeah.
Say something stupid or act a fool that I choose to do, but we had an incident some time ago where we were at a social situation and someone got very intoxicated to the point where they got ill, and it was a very difficult night. Yeah. And so I know that person felt terrible about it afterwards, and I would never want to put myself in a position that way, especially when you're being egged on by some card game.
Yeah, but I know that also, all of our friends that we've ever been in that sort of situation with, I think we all understand each other. And we feel comfortable enough to where I understand feeling bad if, I got a little too drunk with everybody last night. But I also know in the back of my head that all of my friends are going to understand that. They're not going to judge me for it.
Yeah, there's no judgment there. I would just not want to do it
myself.
Sure,
yeah, from a personal standpoint.
Now, inside the game, there's drinking too.
Sure.
And you and our other friend John tend to pick characters who would be the ones to imbibe the most.
Yeah.
What do you think about the rules? And I do try to use the rules, but you guys haven't had to make me do that too much lately. Of forcing, or at least utilizing drinking systems and intoxication limits.
Yeah, I think there's a place for that to a certain extent. I don't know, when I have characters that drink alcohol, it's almost the same sort of situation where it's a maturity level for me now, where if I'm having my character have a drink, it's in the game, it's not because I want my character to get drunk and be wacky. It feels like a correct choice to make in a social situation to, a character I'm playing recently is a dwarf, and hey, he's a dwarf, of course he's going to drink, so he's going to order a round for everybody to celebrate.
But he also has good discerning taste.
Right, so he's going to order a round of the expensive stuff.
Yes.
Which might be a little bit more powerful, but it's never an idea of, I'm doing this so that my character can get drunk and wacky, which I think some players, especially younger players to the point where they don't drink, maybe they're not old enough to drink, and they see drinking as this idealized, weird, silly thing that they eventually will get to do. Or it's, my character's going to drink a bunch and start fighting and being silly and hitting on the ladies in the bar and stuff. And it's, I get to do this in the game because I can't do it in real life. I think Yeah, I don't really like that aspect, and I think some players do that. But
yeah, I printed off from a couple different sources some intoxication rules, and I already had kind of some in my mind, but fortunately I've never really had to use them. I would prepare to reduce people's constitution, wisdom, even the charisma may even go up to a certain extent. But I love it when it's the novice character, not player, but the person who's never really drank before, and then we give them dwarven ale, and it is super strong stuff, and then like, okay, you are now drunk,
and that can create really fun character moments. And I think that's where those rules should come in. The two places where those rules are appropriate, just like any other rule in a tabletop session. One, to help create fun character moments, and two, to help police bad player behavior.
And I am happy to police bad character behavior. That's why usually if you go into a tavern that's in one of my games, the bartender has something up on the wall to bludgeon you with. Be it a mace, a shillelagh, just a big broom. Something is going to come down on your head if you put your hands on the serving winch a little too much.
All right, Cyrus, so I think we're winding down towards the conclusion of episode 5 of the FoundryCast. Just wanted to touch on a couple things upcoming. We mentioned Summer Slam's coming up this weekend, but soon after that, very, very, very terrifyingly soon, is Dragon Con.
Dragon Con.
I'm terrified. I'm scared. I am working feverishly on finishing up costumes. As every year, I plan on finishing about a month ahead of the con, and now weeks ahead of the con, I am not even close to being done. So, yeah, I'm a little worried about that.
From what I've seen, it looks like you have a pretty good schedule. You've got pretty much all of your free time gobbled up.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think you're going to get there. I think it's going to look great.
I will, because I have to, because other people are depending on me. You know, if it were just my costume, I'd be more likely to bail. But I've got everything planned out about when things are going to happen, so it's going to get done. If you are interested in what I'm doing, especially the lightsabers I've been building, make sure you check it out on my YouTube channel. 9 to 5 Gamer. I'll try and put some links in the description of this podcast too, if you want to go check those out. I just recorded a kind of a final-ish video for that series that is going to be up here in the next few days.
Sweet, I can't wait to see it. I've been enjoying the videos so far. I like seeing them come together. Yeah. I'm trying to get a few more out myself. I got the Slimes video up. I'm working on Brevity, which is certainly a big deal for me. It was a lot of fun to do, but learning how to use some different software tricks and sort of tricks of speeding up in little moments that I didn't have to, but then it takes that 5 second down to a 1 second. Yeah. And then I'm going to work on some voiceover work that I think might do just as well in those videos. And it's weird that while I'm not going to the convention, I still feel a little bit this anxiety of, we're running out of time.
We're getting there, man. It's going to be big.
It's going to be big. And
so, I think we're talking about maybe what next episode of the FoundryCast is going to be
all convention talk, for the most part.
We might add a couple other topics in there, but we're definitely going to be talking about Dragon Con. We're going to talk about leading up to it. By the time we'll record, the schedule will be out, and we'll be able to really talk about what all is going on, and should be a fun episode where we can cover it. And then once the convention starts, we're going to do everything we can to try and cover it to a certain extent. I'll be down there the whole weekend. Depending on my Wi-Fi access, how quick it is, I'm going to be trying to upload as much as I can while I'm there.
We're going to experiment with some ways of communicating, contacting, and getting that out to you as well. Not exactly in real time, but instead of having to go back and do full edits, try to get stuff on the website, on the Foundry. Each of us has our own YouTube channel, so 9 to 5 Gamer for Zach.
Yeah, I'll almost certainly get some videos up on that channel as at the con, especially if I'm able to stream directly to my channel. You should be able to see some stuff. If you're not going to Dragon Con, you'll be able to at least be there in spirit with me.
And I've got my own YouTube page, which is Crafty Bastard Gamer. That's been a lot of fun, and I hope to get more stuff up soon. The podcasts have been rolling out at a pretty steady pace. Each of us have blogs that are going on to the Foundry's website as well. So check that out. We want to hear more from you. So more questions, more comments. Please let us know if you listened and you like the cartoons better of one of us. If you would rather sit down and watch Saturday morning cartoons with Zach or with me, we want to hear if there are any questions about tabletop games, about building lightsabers, about Star Wars. Please send it to us on the Facebook page, via email, or on our personal YouTube channels.
Or you can leave a comment on our podcast itself, on our Podbean. And you know what? I do want to give a quick shout out to RG Jerry, my friend Jerry, who is contributing some videos to the Foundry as well. Just started posting some of those. He's been doing some really, really awesome videos, reviewing and working on Gundam models and some other static models he builds. If you want to check those out, they're on our website. The website is thefoundrycast.wix.com/home.
Has he been listening to the podcast, do you know?
I don't know. Actually, I haven't asked him. I haven't seen him in a week or two, so I haven't had a chance to ask him.
Yeah, I definitely want to give him some props. Those videos are awesome.
Yeah,
watch those before you watch mine. Then go watch Zach's, and then you'll have...
And then subscribe to all three of us.
Yes.
All right, guys. Well, once again, thanks for listening. I am Tickle Me Elmo.
And I'm the Forest Moon of Endor.
And we will see you guys next time on the FoundryCast.
Bye. That is step one in Marine combat training. Toilet paper, folding, 2-ply.
Oh, they give you 2-ply?
They give you 2-ply.
Oh, because it's Marines.
Well, one ply is for your butt, the other ply is for your rifle.